Good evening, everyone. Well, for me, it's good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you watch this video. I'm back, and you know I'm trouble. I always got to give you something good for you to take home. Tonight, I have the privilege to have someone who actually understands what it is to have a brain injury, like me, who actually is dedicated his career to helping people like me. He works in a specific area that I didn't even know existed when I was ill. So I'm very honored to have him tonight. You all have the opportunity as you come on to ask questions. I have made bold his name and his contact information. So, which you usually don't see this big, but I wanted everybody to have an opportunity. I made it slow as well. So it gives you the opportunity. It will be running all over the screen. So if you didn't catch the number the first time, you will get it the second, the third, or the fourth time. It will be up and you can access it anytime. For me, you all know that bringing information about the Brain Injury Alliance, the only group that we have in the state of Connecticut at the moment, but there's many other services out there. And patients like me, like you, or loved ones that you have, we don't get the information all the time. So that's why our guest, Ron, Stern tonight is so important and vital to us. I must say that my approach to him was 10 seconds and he said yes, of course I would like to be there. So that's when you know your people in the community are committed to doing that, to showing up for us brothers and sisters. Hi Ron, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Good to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy you said yes. I'm so happy that you can make it. I know that it's a long holiday for many people. um, for those of us who are on call or so on and so forth, we send you our love. We know that you're working really hard, and not everybody gets to spend the long weekend with their loved ones who are at a place where they feel comfortable. So, to my brothers and sisters, I always say, I love you. So, remember, this is only a weekend, not the end of the world. I promise you. We've seen the end of the world coming, right? That's my point of view. Ron, how are you? You have an amazing resume, an amazing bio. It would take us so much to go through this bio, but I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to let people know in this case, and in 99.9 of the cases, um, I don't spend quality time with people. I'm inspired by either their work, my exchange with them, so on and so forth. There's very few people who've been on my podcast. Um, that I have spent time with. And that's the purpose of it too. If you touch me, then I know my audience would appreciate that feeling as well. Ron, tell us a little bit because you've had a career. I mean, you went to from working with the golden population, okay,
Yeah.
to working with all population. You obviously have a demeanor. It was, when I exchange with you, one that says I am approachable and I do care.
Mhm.
Why do you obviously you have the clinical background. You pretty much can go anywhere. Let's be honest. You wanted to. You got the letters behind you. So you can be in different places. Let's be honest. And you chose this area. Can you tell us why?
I think I want to give you an answer that's going to illustrate exactly where my heart is aligned in this work, Lydia. And
Okay.
it really kind of started back when I was a little kid. When I was in the fourth grade, I had a deeply meaningful experience take place. I lived in Wyoming, lived near an Air Force base. My dad was stationed there. And so I was used to a life of going from one military base to another. And in the fourth grade, I had a pivotal experience. There was a girl in our class whose father was also in the military. She just came in, she was new, so just like me, we had that automatic connection. We started to bond and talk and share our experiences of where we had been around the United States. And within a few months, she left the school for a period of time, and we were told that she would come back. We didn't know what was going on. And then a few months later, when she returned, prior to her return, the nurse came into our classroom and said, I'm just going to use, a fictional name, Lisa. Lisa has been out for a period of time because she had a brain tumor. and she had to have surgery to have it removed, and she needed to be in rehabilitation for a period of time. So the nurse said to the class, she's going to be coming back tomorrow, and when she comes back, I want you all to treat her as you had always treated her before. I want you to treat her as though she were a friend and a relative to you. Um, and then the nurse said something pivotal to me. It was a turning point in my life. She simply said the equivalent of the golden rule. She said, imagine how you would feel coming back to the school and having a brain injury and not being able to walk or talk or speak in the same way that you used to. How would you want to be treated? That's how we want you to treat Lisa when she comes back. So when she came back the next day, I'll never forget that we all stood up one at a time, welcomed her with open arms, and we all hugged her one at a time. So then lunchtime came, and we recognized that she still wasn't able to use utensils. She wasn't able to use a fork. She wasn't able to put a straw into a milk carton. So myself and one other girl who I'm convinced must be a nurse or a doctor or somebody in the health field, her and I began to take Lisa under our wing, and we began to kind of teach her these things, and work with her and help her. So here we were doing
Another
like
proof that children are magical.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I said to myself in the fourth grade, "This feels so natural and so right that this is something that I want to do when I become an adult, when I grow up." And so, through the course of my life, I have done things that have been helpful to people, and it led me straight into this opportunity. And so, it feels natural because it felt natural almost 45 years ago.
That's time to write a book, you know?
Well, everybody has a life story, and
That is time to
that's
write a book.
fine.
I think that children are magical, and when they're guided by kind human beings like this teacher, children can learn that
Yes,
love is available for everybody, regardless of how we
absolutely.
look, and situations that take place in our lives. Right? Can you tell us about? There's many ways. What's your definition of a brain injury? And the reason I say this is because I tell people all the time I get the whole, you don't look like you have a brain injury. I'm like, well, thank God you don't live with me, right? Because my life would be miserable if I had to explain to you
Right.
every day
Yeah, yeah,
what that means and that I had to learn how to, gain the skills and walk again and the stutter and, whatever,
yeah,
try to be in communications and then, go from that to zero, basically,
yeah, yeah,
help being bathed, watched the entire time, that kind of stuff. So, I'm one of the ones who has been able to gain a lot back, and I'm so grateful. My belief is in God, so I this is what I say, right? Uh,
yes.
but I also was isolated completely to services. I did had no idea that something existed. I didn't even know what was going on with me. What do you tell people before we get into what you do, the meat of what you do for others every day? What do you tell people when you're sitting in a room and people hear the words brain injury and automatically people think car accident? That's the
Hmm.
first one that seems to come to people mind when I do training. That's the first one that people say car accident. Sports comes like at the third
Hmm.
that one. Domestic violence doesn't come up very often. We got to kind of bring it into the physical abuse, maybe a child or an adult or in
Yeah,
between. Those things don't come up. What do you say? You're in a room and you're the minority of the minority, right? So because when we're with our brothers and sisters who like get it, it's a lot easier to move on to an agenda. But when you are in a room probably advocating for the unseen, the unheard, and you become our voice or our echo. I like to say I'm more of an echo than a voice because you don't want to take anybody else's voice away. How do you
right.
explain to people what do you do? What's a brain injury?
Yeah. It's a wonderful question because it's so complex. I think of all the different clients that we serve, Lydia, and there are so many different backgrounds. There's so many different types and kinds of brain injuries. What strikes me is that just as I'm having my conversation with you, I wouldn't know that you had the background of having a brain injury that you had. There are people who have had brain injuries who the invisible pain is what's felt the most. If we put ourselves into the mind of someone who has a brain injury, we have to think to ourselves how, how they must feel so isolated, so lonely, that their life has now changed so dramatically. How are they being viewed? How are they looking at me? How am I supposed to behave? I still want to be accepted now as much as I was in the past. So for me, it becomes tremendously important to think about brain injury through the context of healing through socialization, healing through creativity, healing through healthy conversation, healing through unconditional support and unconditional love. In a professional world, it is possible, and but it is not only probable, it's possible and a definite must and a duty for us to feel love for the people that we serve. A professional love is one where we say to ourselves, we're going to support you unconditionally, and we're going to help you to feel reintegrated into the community. We're going to help you to feel supported. We don't want to see you marginalized, so we're going to give you the opportunity to reintegrate into a community of people who are going to care for you and who are going to support you. That is why it is such an honor to do this work.
Oh, okay. Okay. I went into my happy place. Thank you very much. The word love is one that's so powerful because when you are going through a difficult situation, may it be you personally, loved ones, your neighbor who you adore and spend time with, and all of a sudden their life has changed, children, adults. I mean, it affects the whole community, and this is what we forget about. I've been blessed. I have, my husband and my mom. Um, so, but not everybody has that, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
years ago, and I'm 57, but if you looked at the 30s and the 40s, we just would be in an institution, period. If you couldn't function at the level that, at the speed that society was going, whatever society was doing at that time, then you would be in an institution if you were lucky.
yeah,
Some people ended up in prisons. I mean, like it was a very different world. Uh,
yes.
and so I just want to remind people that there has been progress, but we're still in the gray area. We're still not in that rainbow area where we go, oh, we're seen. We're really, really seen. And that's why you're so vital. When you use freely, this is one of the things that really touched me because you 3 conversations I've had with you, you've used the word love. You don't hear many clinicians, and I admire you for that because you have to have a healthy love for who you serve.
Thank you.
You
That
know,
means so much.
that's it's not a
Mhm.
common word.
No, it's unfortunate that it's not, because in as much as I love and care about the world with which I work in, I know that the language and the vocabulary demands further evolution. And the evolution is quite simple, to use those words that harken us back to connection to others, whether it is our family, our loved ones, our dear friends, our colleagues, those who mentored us through elementary school, high school, college, those who mentored us through our vocations. You know that those people have had a certain affinity for your potential and that you loved what they did for you. So for me, that word is of tremendous importance. And I'm so happy to use it freely and proudly and that you recognize its equal value too. It's
No,
wonderful.
absolutely. It's amazing to hear those words, especially if you are someone who's going through such a difficult process, and to hear someone use that word because the words that you get um, freely used sometimes are so clinically cold.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
clinically cold. I have plenty of people who work in the clinical area who I would be wanting to put in one little basket and be like, only use these folks. They're awesome. But so many people are so afraid, even working in this field. I've talked to people and they're almost afraid of saying, I care or I dare. to care, or I have this person on my mind, or I think this service would be helpful. Now let's go into something I had no idea existed. The TBI waiver. What does that mean for all of those that did, just like me, never heard about it? Although by the time I was too sick, so I would need my husband probably to hear about it before me. Uh,
Right.
what does that mean?
It's a beacon of light, to be honest with you, Lydia. It's an opportunity for a person to receive services in the community, to avoid institutionalization, and to be set up with a system and layer of supports that is going to help them to thrive and survive in the community. You know, the ABI waiver has been around for about 2.5 decades. It was about 10 years ago that the ABI waiver went from the Department of Social Services, and they gave it out to the access agencies. Uh, mine being one of them, Connecticut Community Care. So 10 years ago, we took on the waiver, and as care managers who already had robust experience in working with the elders, with the elder care waiver, Connecticut Home Care Program for Elders, I believe we were positioned very well to transition into a place where we were going from working with seniors to working with people who have acquired traumatic brain injury. And what I particularly love and appreciate about my program, now you know I could go on and on about it and probably take up 7 of your podcast
You can come
time
back over and
spaces.
over and over. I'm okay with that.
But what I love about it so much is that we have many layers of support, and we have a system where we will meet with our clients and their supporters in team meetings every 3 months. In addition to a monthly call, we meet with everybody in person at the round table to discuss, collaborate, and co-create ideas toward meaningful goals so that people patient-centered goals so that our clients can create goals for themselves and they're supported by people all around them to make sure that they can achieve them. And if they aren't or if they can't, what are the barriers and how do we identify ways to overcome the barriers? So we are so achievement focused on this program. It's something I'm very proud of. Equally proud of all of my care managers. I can't say enough about them. They're rock stars in my book.
Make sure they get their stars and their hugs and all of that kind of stuff, especially from people like me that want to take that message and I don't want to drill it. I want to serve it.
Yeah.
And so I think that as advocates, it's very important for us to say, I want to unite with other people who see the potential
Yeah.
of people. There's language that you use that I really invite. My mom is around here, so she could testify. Um, there's language that you use that I hope that we can have a conversation and maybe even a training online that we can change the language that would allow patients like myself and many others to feel less anxiety driven because you are already at a place, or your family, whomever, if you're blessed to have that. I know many people who do not have that at all, who
Yes.
called me and said, I'm alone. I don't, I'm sick. I hear people a lot say, I'm sick. Nobody wants me. Like it depends on where you are and what your financial situation is and all of these. But your language is embracing. You said co-create. One of my biggest challenges and what I advocate for is do not take my voice away. You
Mhm.
do not have the right, you know? So you do not have the right to take my voice away, right?
Yes.
And I think that happens a lot where I may stutter or I may not be able to get the words out as quickly or whatever my situation may be. Um, but let me build with you something that might work for me. So I
Mhm.
always tell people, build your own suit, whatever you want to
Mhm.
wear, but make sure you hire the right tailor.
Yes.
The tailor who's going to argue with you is not the tailor you want. Uh,
Correct.
where does this begin? So if somebody is thinks they might qualify for this, okay. So I live, just to give people an idea, an example. I um I learned I have a brain injury. I'm on either public assistant, SSI. Many of us had to go into SSI. If you were blessed to have, I had a career, so I had accumulated. It's still not enough for you to survive. You know, um, I may lose my house. I may lose all those resources that I had in the past. I just may not be the same person, and I need help. I may need a little bit of help daily, weekly. I
Yeah.
might just need to be feel part of, because I remember that very much so. Um, how does that work when they
Yes.
go to you? How does one qualify for a waiver?
The first step is, and there's, a person who wants to come onto the waiver has to apply for a space to get on the waiting list through the Department of Social Services ABI waiver program. That, unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time. Can take anywhere from 4 years up to 6 or 7, unless they're in a nursing facility, unless they're in a rehab facility, and they can get on an MFP, money follows the person slash ABI waiver spot, in which they can come out and be a part of the ABI waiver. So through one of those two channels, once a person's name comes up, then and that's when the message is triggered to come from the Department of Social Services to our department, and we assign a care manager to go out to the home and conduct a comprehensive initial assessment visit, one that we use a very powerful and empowering tool, the Universal Assessment Tool from the Department of Social Services, that looks at a person's function, biopsychosocial, medical needs, and kind of puts together a picture, an effective picture of who the client is and what the client needs. And if they qualify, and their plan of care is approved with a start date, and that triggers that beautiful green light for the care manager to then, put the plan of care into action and get wonderful people assigned to take care of the individual in the community. It's a new community, I'll mind you. Once you're on the ABI waiver and you have this wonderful layered series of supports, you've entered into a beautiful new community of people who care from their heart and want to help, want to engage you in inclusivity so that you're part of the community.
Do you have, or does your staff have experience a sense of people feeling like, I don't want this. I don't understand this. I don't want this. I don't even know why they referred me to this. Um, or feeling that is too invasive. Obviously, you're not. Obviously, it seems like you have put your team in a place where love is present. But do you find that clients sometimes may not be willing to enter the program because the concept sometimes is so invasive? Because I know that being a patient and needing that kind of level of support so I could have some quality of life was very hard to accept.
We
Um,
That's such a wonderful question, because we've had so many people who've perhaps started out on a program and they say to themselves, "This is not me. This is not who I've become. I don't believe that I need to have anything of this nature come to me. I don't need it. Still the person that I used to be, and I can get by on my own." It becomes particularly more challenging. One case that comes to mind is if the person is financially successful to the point of having 7 digits in the bank in their own airplane,
mm,
and a potential opportunity to have their organization go out on the stock market. I mean, just, true success is right around the corner, and then the next day they have a tremendous, devastating car accident. Everything is taken away from them. But they still have their ambition. They still have their ideals. They still know what they want to do with their life, but they can't. They can't do it anymore in the way that they used to. So
acceptance is really, really hard.
yeah, whether it's somebody who has a lot of, success and then has this tragedy happen, or it's just somebody from any walk of life who has an immediate, traumatic or acquired brain injury occurs, something that just comes from out of the blue, many times they're not able to accept now that they're in this place where they have to have these services around them, these supports around them. But that's where it invites this beautiful discussion centered around patience, centered around being patient with yourself, being patient with us so that we can help you. Here's what we would like to do to try to help you to live a better life, to live what now we hope can be a happy life under such traumatic circumstances. Once we've gained the trust, once we've gained that rapport, that's where we see beautiful things begin to unfold.
Yeah, it is very hard. We have Chesa Rodriguez, we have Caitlin Herrera, which happened. Her birthday was just the other day. Love you, Caitlin. We're all family. So Cheta is a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and a dear, dear friend, and justice all the way. And I love her and her entire family. But she has a really good question. What is
Yeah.
the name of the waiver?
But yeah, it's the Connecticut, the Department of Social Services ABI waiver, acquired brain injury waiver. And it's a good question. Why is it named a waiver? What is waiving? In this context, waiver is simply meaning that it's a program. It's not to be taken literally. Nothing's being waived or taken away or removed. The language of the program is that it is called a waiver, and it's one of many waivers under the Department of Social Services. It just is for me, another word for a program and an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. How do people qualify? I heard you say the Department of Social Services. So I use my story a lot. So for those who are in fear, thinking, oh, I should ask this question,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. I and my husband and I, well, we didn't even know that this was a brain injury for me. So we had no idea that the Injury Alliance existed. We had no idea. I mean, I went into psych units, like there was never, ever anybody that talked to me about quality of life because I had a husband, right? We were in an income bracket that was more than the $3 that you need to be under. Um, but no one, and my mother can say this too, no one ever said to us, have you ever thought of? Because I think for me, it probably would have been easier to work with a stranger than to watch my husband have to help me bathe or watch me by the door because I could fall or so on and so forth, or have just somebody around me that didn't think, how broken are you today? Because they were learning too, right? Um,
Mhm.
how does one qualify? So, does the Department of Social Services send you? I know how, but I want the audience to understand. Does the Department of Social Services send you a referral or can I self referral?
You can either self-referral through the Department of Social Services. There is a number. I don't have that number right off the top of my head.
We know where to find you. That's
Yes, we
okay.
do. Yes, we do. I can provide it. So yeah, a person can self-refer, or a physician can refer, a skilled, nurse can refer, yeah, into the Department of Social Services, to which, your name will be added again to the list. And then when a care manager comes out to visit you, one of the main criteria is that you have to have some degree of need that would have otherwise qualified you to be in a nursing home. And in this context, it's typically two ADLs, two activities of daily living. So if you have a need, either hands-on or supervision or oversight need for bathing, dressing, grooming, eating, feeding, toileting, mobility, things of that nature, it can qualify you. We have a number of clients who are kind of grandfathered in, so to speak, because perhaps their ADLs have improved over time, but there is still a need for some oversight or supervision, and for behavioral reasons too.
I was
Many of
going
our
to go
clients
there.
are out for
Yes.
behavioral reasons as well. So, yes.
So I know you were trained to do this, but I like to use myself as an example. So for the shy hearts that are out there, and also I've never heard of that, right? Um, your cognitive can be impaired, your behavior. I was never physically aggressive. I've worked with people who have lack of control after their
Yeah.
um, uh, I became a super introvert. Like, I'm right in the borderline. People misunderstand my personality all the time. I'm going to spend time with folks and then I'm going to come home and love my couch. I need a day or two to, if I go to a conference or
Yeah.
whatever it is, I'm like, I'm peopled out. That's what I tell people because my brain can't handle the same
Right.
level that it used to.
Right.
Um, but there are people who understanding what's happening for us at times, tactile, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And it's frustrating. It is very frustrating. So the agitation that we go through, the anxiety, the depression, all those things, because now your entire world has changed.
Yes.
Like literally change. I remember being at a Chinese restaurant. I always share the story, and I could see what I wanted, and my husband took me, and I could see what I wanted, and but I couldn't get the words to transfer from my brain to my vocal, expression. And I remember the person saying, "Do you know what you want or not?" And that's their job, right? Not so rude, but it is their job. Take an order. Give me an order or not. And my husband was so kind, and he said, "She'll get to it." But he didn't have any support either. He didn't understand how any of that worked. And being a Latina woman, forget it. That's a whole different, you're in that world too. So you understand we take care of business in a different way. Um, Unfortunately, and many times, what does a client look like? And this is a question I ask people a lot, but I specifically ask it to you because I know how immersed you are in the quality of care. What is a client when you're giving trainings or when you're bringing someone new? Um, what do you tell them about what's a client look like or what they may be confronting? You might bump into XYZ.
This is why I believe, it takes a certain kind of personality. You can have all the training in the world, but when it comes down to it, you kind of have to have the heart and the soul and the initiative, the soulful and spiritual initiative to get into this kind of work. Um, you know, Brain injury doesn't have any particular face. Someone who is brain injured can look like any conceivable person on the planet. They can look compromised and fearful, or they can look confident and strong and perfect. It's simply it doesn't it's the ultimate invisible injury in so many different respects. There's there's trauma, there's pain, there's suffering, there's angst and despair going on the inside, but on the outside, I've seen some of my clients show the biggest, brightest, most beautiful smiles that you can possibly imagine. um, and I think that there's something to be said for that because I felt moments of deep gratitude where they're so happy to be in the moment with the care manager, the cognitive behavioral therapist, the independent living skills trainer, their mother, their sister, their brother, their husband, their wife, their loved one, their child, their conservator who's in it for them from top to bottom.
That is
And
if you get a good one.
if
As
you
an
get
advocate, I
if
will
you
tell
get a
people
good
that
one.
you
Oh,
must
I
get a
know.
good
I
one.
know. It's sometimes the luck of the draw. So yeah, there can be a lot of suffering going on deep down inside. The face of brain injury, it's the face of all of us. It's the face of humanity.
The
But
face of humanity.
what I love about my care managers and anyone who enters into this profession is that they come into it understanding the existential, emotional, lived experiences of someone who has this kind of condition because they carry within themselves a deep degree of empathy and they are willing themselves professionally to step into the other person's world and to try to fully understand it and appreciate it. It can't be fully understood and appreciated by somebody who doesn't have brain injury, but
And I don't wish that on anybody.
empathy is this magic thing that gives us the opportunity to flow into another person's world, to a place where we can really appreciate their experience and try to help them to live a good life.
A big shout out to Efrain Paula. Efrain and I go way back from Hurricane Maria. We love you too. We're sending love to you and your girls who are magical kids. He's an amazing dada. And
Very
he's,
kind words,
yeah,
kind, beautiful words.
he
Thank
is,
you.
he's an amazing fun dada. They call him amor, which, you know the word,
Um,
but for many people who don't know, that means love. That's literally what they call him.
oh,
Uh,
that's
it
beautiful.
doesn't get better than that. He's an incredible human being, and I'm so grateful that he's part of my circle.
That's wonderful.
You're, and I want to give people a visual for those of you who are visual. Having a brain injury, because it is invisible to many, right? It is invisible to many. Like I can trip, and I use humor a lot because that's my go-to. I'm like, okay, today I don't have my feet. I must be borrowing somebody else's feet. But those are all skills I learned. But the embarrassment, the loneliness, the not being able to drive, all of those I've been able to do now, but it took 4 years before I was able to like drive from where I live is Bristol to Yukon. So it's, 16 miles, 14 miles highway, which is, you think, oh yeah, thank God. Um, but it would take me 2 hours. And I
Yes.
would cry in my car and I was like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. But I knew if I called home and told my husband, the whole search party's coming out to find me.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to do it on my own. Um, and it was very, very challenging, very, very challenging. What do you say to that case manager that comes to you and says, "I am in pain. I can
Hmm.
see we can really help Lydia. We can really help her, but she's
Hmm.
just so willful on doing everything she used to do before that we can't even get her to admit that she's another beautiful person."
Hmm.
This is just another phase of her life. Acceptance is hard. It's very,
Hmm.
very hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for you, and if you have loved ones who truly care about, you're getting better or you living the best quality of life, can be very difficult for them as well.
Hmm.
Um, and it can end up in suicide. It can end up in all of those. I've been through all of those channels.
Yeah.
What do you say to a staff member who's in love with their job and who's going, hey, they won't even start with admitting, you know, that their brain now functions differently. That's
Yeah.
what I tell people. Our brain just functions differently now. We have access to memories maybe of when we were 12. And all of a sudden, I can't remember the conversation I had 15 minutes ago. What's that person's name? What did they, where did I meet them? So what do you say to that case manager? Because I worry about our case managers. I worry about our clinicians who go into this kind of work with heart and soul and desire, and then they bump into people like me who go, no, lo siento. I'm going to spend 5 hours in my car into I do this. And they may
Hmm.
have skills or guidance or, the cognitive behavior plans that could help you. I did ECTs. I did, um, many, many things to get me back to that. What do you say to that painfully? And I've been in those rooms where a clinician is like, I can't even, they're so wonderful. They're so great. I could see it. I could see it. We're there. We're almost there. But they will not let me get close enough so we can create a plan.
Beautiful question. Again, you are on a roll with these. And my
Okay.
answer to you is as I think about it, I see a lot of connection and parallel between how I speak to my staff and how staff speak to the clients. Both to me and staff, and from the staff to our clients, I want to create and nurture a safe space and place through the connectedness of conversation, communication, active listening, and intentional dialogue. So when I'm talking to my staff about this very thing, Lydia, I want them to know that I hear you, I see you, I believe in you. I want my care managers to know that me, I'm standing proudly as the leader of my staff and letting them know I hear you, I see you, I believe you, and I believe in you. I believe in everything you're doing on behalf of these clients. And so I want my staff to say the same thing to their clients. I want them, when you have that kind of genuine, warm, honest dialogue, and it does have this beautiful thread of love running through it, let them know that they are seen. You know, with brain injury, there's so many people, as you know and feel and can relate to, you feel invisible, you feel marginalized, you feel on the edge, you don't feel a part of community. But if our care managers, if and when our care managers engage in that type of meaningful, authentic dialogue to illustrate to their clients that they're serving, I'm right here. I'm side by side with you. And I'm going to walk right next to you. If you have a bad experience, if you have a bad day, I'm a phone call away. If you need to have a conversation with me, or you want to have an emergency team meeting and get the whole team meeting together, the whole team together at the round table, we'll make it happen in a day or two. Just like that, we're going to have 5, 6 people either on Teams or we'll go to your house and we'll all sit down in person to talk about whatever kind of a crisis or malady that you might be suffering or experiencing, an emotional heartache or frustration around the brain injury, or it could be a family dynamic issue.
I was
You
just going to
know,
ask about that.
there's
Yeah.
something so empowering in just the art of listening.
And that's, I think that happens for many of us. We become invisible, um, because we don't fit the molds, whatever that may be.
Yeah,
Either in our families, in our traditions, and in our communities of faith, or people are so afraid to even, I still have people going, are you still dealing with your brain injury? I'm like, it hasn't gone away.
yes,
It still resides and it doesn't pay rent. So I have not been able to, evict it just yet. So I just want to let you know, people are very interested. You're getting, you can see some of these comments. Other people are texting me because they feel kind of shy to go onto but this one doesn't feel shy. And this one is Chetza. Let me just go back here so I can read it from my support and true teamwork. And I'm reading it for the rest of the plan. Is crucial for effective service provision. We must take care of others that take care of, others. I think family members or whomever is taking care of a chosen loved one, a biological loved one, a community loved one.
yeah,
It is very difficult for them at
yes,
times, and
yeah.
respite is really, really important.
Mhm.
Um, how do you build that into your plan? Because I know it could be very exhausting for someone who is trying to help, and we try to help with what we have, right?
Yeah,
And we don't always have the language, or we don't always, understand. What do you mean you forgot where the bathroom is? You're in it. Oh,
mm,
yeah. Um, is this the shampoo or the conditioner? For those
right,
ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Some of the
yeah.
guys don't use conditioner. Okay, I got a military guy here. He's like, I don't need all that stuff. He's like, why do we need all these products? But ladies, lots of us need to have 3 things in our in our bathroom. Um, it is very difficult for those who are trying to love and take care and forget to take care of themselves. And you can see them um, hurting, and you can see them edgy, and you can see them, I have people who will call me and say, I don't mean to. And I'm like, it's because you're not taking care of yourself. So let's figure out how you can do that with some respite. How do you deal with that in your plan? Because a client can come to you and say, if my mother says, or if my husband says this one more time, or if, such and such at the grocery store says that to me next time, I'm going to slap the daylights out of them.
Hmm.
Because it all accumulates.
Yeah.
What do you say to to that mother or father or cousin that you could see? You probably can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
If your case managers are there enough, they probably could recognize because they become part of the family, kind of.
Yeah.
What do they do?
Yeah, the care managers are stand at the forefront of being the directors of the care planning process. So, all of my care managers have that beautiful word to care. Oh, yes, absolutely they do. And manager, they are leaders unto themselves on behalf of the clients that they serve. So, you know, I think of the opening days and weeks of a person who comes onto our IDI waiver and begins to receive these services of support that are intended by design to give them a smoother experience in the community. The ILST is somebody who's going to be teaching life skills. So to your point of, the frustration of shampoo, conditioner, what this, that, the other, you
Horrible.
know, the ILST is going to be somebody who can kind of help walk them through the process of, seeing and understanding things around them,
Mhm.
helping them to schedule their day, giving them some creative out of the box ideas as to things that they can do to kind of take up space in their day, not sit in front of the TV and go for a Netflix marathon, but get out, go for a little walk, get out to a community center, go to a library, go to a museum. The list goes on and on and on. So, there's always going to be frustrations in the life of somebody who has a brain injury. And our job is to, kind of twofold to help, my staff help family members to kind of identify those areas that might be a trigger, to work with a cognitive behavioral therapist who's going to create a treatment plan, who ideally the treatment plan is going to be shared with the staff and the cognitive behavioral therapist are going to be working side by side to identify areas of frustration, concern, blocks to success, so that, and it's an ongoing dialogue and a constantly unfolding experiment. We must never believe for a moment that it's going to be a perfect plan right off the bat. The intention is to identify the areas where there's imperfection and work to try to improve it in little pieces. We have a lot of beautiful success stories, from one client who wasn't able to speak and articulate to the way that they wanted to the degree that they wanted to. This client, of all places, the ILST took him to a park, for 2, 3 months in East Hartford, where he was able to, have begin to have simple conversations with people walking their dogs, and then to say hi to the dogs and have simple conversations with the dogs, and then go to a pool hall and play pool with strangers, with the ILST at their side. And then that opens up more opportunities for dialogue and conversation. Now this person, this this client of ours can have just a normal conversation like you and I are having now. And that was not the case 10 years ago. So it's
Mm,
these beautiful experiences of connection that we see, and it's intentional, you know,
that's
not doing it just for the heck of it, but intentional, authentic.
I think and again, I'm loving this conversation, and I'm sure we're going to need to have more from
I
what the
would love
text and stuff I'm
to.
getting. That's why you see me look at my phone. Um,
Right.
it is having a brain injury is different for everybody. Even when I used to go to support groups, for all of you that are going, I can't find one. I had a really hard time finding one that match, that there was chemistry, that there was all of those things, right? If you are thinking they don't believe my story, I will tell you something. Nobody needs to tell you that your story is true or false. It is your story. It is your journey. And and I invite you to do this to everybody, once you start saying, what can I do? Then the plan becomes a little bit more clear for you.
Hmm.
What can I do?
Yeah, what
And
can I do?
I was taught that in DBT, uh,
Mm.
I threw those papers across the room. Do not anybody get me wrong. The shampoo went across the room too. I had very frustrating times. Couldn't say, I was not the person I used to be. I
Right.
couldn't, do any of those things. I couldn't communicate. My eye went in, all of those kinds of things. Your body changed. Now they're telling me I got to use this med and that med, and finding the right cocktail if that's the way that it goes. But the language that you and your staff are committing to and are using with love, I think is one of the biggest user. We got a beautiful author. You got to check her out, Kathleen Sanauer. She does a lot of work and she comes on the podcast and we're doing something that's called All About Us. And so you see a lot of people wondering what does it look like. And I love what you said. It doesn't really have a face. Right? So, and it is invisible to many. What do you say to, mind you, I never have pre-conversations with my guests for this purpose.
Mm.
What do you say to the audience who's watching you? What are some of the recommendations or tips or heartly things that you can give them that they can go home or their home and think, huh, that's why my sister does that.
Hmm.
That's why when I offer to help her, sometimes she's like, "I can do this,"
Yeah. Yeah.
which was one of my reactions sometimes. "I can do this by myself." And
Yeah.
I didn't quite have the grip of it because I was on a sippy cup trying to drink my coffee, because
Right.
my hands were shaking so badly. And then I graduated to other cups. But, literally a sippy cup from a kid. My mother wanted to help me as much as she could, and she came up with creative ideas of doing that. What would you invite the audience to keep in mind? Um,
Wonderful question. To those who are caregivers, to those who support and care for those who have an acquired or traumatic brain injury, I say to you, I salute you. Congratulations on doing what you do. It's not only out of the kindness of your heart, but it's unconditional. There are folks out there who simply do what they do out of a space of love for those that they saw go through a traumatizing experience, come out the other end as a survivor, and have the resiliency to go on another day. The caregivers, I say you are the you are those who wear the shining armor. You're the heroes. The person who suffers the brain injury is unto themselves also a hero because there's so many things that they have to attend to for themselves. You have to take care of yourself in ways that you never imagined you'd have to prior to the injury. The
mhm.
caregivers, the caregivers are the lifeline. The caregivers are the ones who are sitting next to those who are injured, next to those who are a survivor, and saying, I'm here for you and I'm not going anywhere. If
Oh,
that's,
that's key. Can you say that again?
I'm here for you and I'm not going anywhere. And if that's not love, I don't know what is. And I've seen so many hundreds of examples of it in the decade that I have done this. And it's inspiring. It's one of the most wonderful aspects of my work is to be witness to the caregivers who are there and they're in it unconditionally to help and support that individual that they've always cared for and loved. That feeling doesn't go away. We'll see moments of frustration. That's a human experience. On the other side of the frustration is beauty and love.
You have to start writing. Write a book. Please write a book or a couple, because this is the kind of language that we need out there. This is why I work with certain people to bring that language that does not minimize or blames or judges a people for what they need to do for themselves. I will always say what my journey has offered me, what my journey could have, the recipe would have been a better recipe had I known. And that's why I bring
Mhm.
you here. That's why I bring community events out there. It is vital. We have nurses here, we have lawyers here, we have providers here. Um,
Great. That's wonderful.
I think it's vital for people like me and others who feel comfortable sharing their story. I have a friend here, and I had an accident where I lost control. I was waiting for her of my bladder, and it happened. My pretty dress and everything, because I was going to see her. And I thought, oh, I've never shared this part of my life with her. And her reaction was like, girl, just in her perfect, nice little balcony with this really nice chair, those chairs that you like kind of hug into.
Right.
And I just peed all over it. And I
Mm,
was terrified. And her
right.
answer was like, come on, let's get you some clothes inside and whatever we were planned. And she never made me, it was just like, hmm. And I was mortified, but her love and her kindness towards me and her, such as life made me feel so safe. And that
Yes.
lasted forever. I mean, that's been one of those times where you go, wow,
Yeah.
this happened a couple of years ago. This is not, 10 years ago.
Right.
So you prepare your bag, you do all of those things, but sometimes things happen and your brain
Yeah.
is not connecting and stuff happens. So I think the kindness of people um, is very important. And I think what you do and your team do is you're not only working with clients and families, but you're also helping people like me bring the message out that it's not over. Um, and you can find ways to live a new life,
Yes.
right? And I remember saying to my husband, when am I going to wear my business suit again? And the poor guy lied through his teeth out of love. You will. You will. Now I can wear a business suit because I did a lot of work in the courts. And I go, God darn it, I got to wear a business suit. Who the hell wants to do that? Um, but my identity was
Right.
my communications background, my advocacy background, going to court, like all of these things. So that suit meant I will get back to. I never went back, and I could never go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And accepting that, I mean, I can wear a business suit now, not the most comfortable thing in the world. I've never found one that I go, "Oh, I could live in this." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
no. But I had to be able to accept some of those things, and it took a very long time for people to be kind because I worked in an industry where kindness was not um, at the front line. And so for all of you, it's just I went to work at Wendy's, couldn't pull it off. I went to literally do not mess with people who work in fast food.
Mhm.
Do not mess with them. That is an art. Okay? That is an art. If you're gonna get a burger, just get a burger. Don't start taking stuff off. Don't start putting stuff on, whatever. The sound was very difficult for me. They were amazing. Wendy's was amazing to me. But I didn't even tell them what I had. And I couldn't. I wanted just to mop. So I didn't hear the thing. And then I went to clean houses, and that was magical because this Puerto Rican girl can clean a house. I mean, like I can clean a house. And it became therapeutic. But wearing a uniform and belonging to someone, to something, to an entity, to my little badge, my name, I belong to something. So it starts that way. Um,
Yes.
and I say this because I know you know this, that it matters to people. Um, Talk to us. I know I'm holding you and we just have a few more minutes. Talk to us about what are some of the daily challenges that someone can have. Because you and I know the lingo, but for me it was difficult to brush my teeth.
Right.
Like just getting the coordination from the toothbrush to
Yeah.
the like I knew I had to do this, but I remember brushing my teeth without any toothbrush. And then going, that doesn't feel right. So then I had to remember I needed the toothpaste.
Mhm.
That's my husband. I believe in you. So I know I used to beg him to put me in an institution and go on with his life. I used to beg him. And he was like, no, we're not doing that. So sometimes people have to let you borrow their faith until you get your own.
Yeah.
What are some of the dailies that people struggle the most in your world?
It's an interesting question as well because it's things that perhaps so many of us simply take for granted. We've had instances where we, wish for very simple goals. Get out of bed, and being one of them. There's, depression and anxiety. There's a lot of different emotional experiences that somebody can have after an injury, and perhaps they didn't have it before. They see themselves as being so different now that they don't do perhaps the things that they used to do a lot. Maybe they used to, take a walk around the block for 15 minutes, get out of bed and, watch the morning news, commit to reading a book. There's just so many different aspects of living that get stunted um, when a brain injury occurs. And this feeling of being stunted can go on for months or years after. And I think, again, that's what I appreciate about this program because for me, it is a block, of course, in a person's normal life, but it invites the conversation, the communication, the idea sharing about what can we do to bring that person back around to help encourage gently, because a person has to have their own will. We can't force anybody to do anything, but what kind of opportunities can we place in front of a person so that they can become motivated to want to get back into the groove again, to want to become kind of reintegrated in society again, in the community again, and to have connection and connections that perhaps fell to the side as they began the recovery and the rehabilitation process. How do we bring them back to a place where they can feel happy, where their sense of well being is being preserved and nurtured and increased? Everybody has that path that in life where there's going to be some blocks and perhaps you don't feel like doing something on a given day, and we have to honor that. There's grace in honoring a person's wish to not do anything. We understand that,
Mhm.
but we want to be a mirror to someone's potential. We want to be a mirror to someone's return back to community.
I love how you say it back to community because for those of you who don't understand the language, I've heard you say a couple of things that really touch me because it's the way I handle the world. I go recovery. And people always say, and I work and I love people who have struggled with addiction. So understand that, I have many passions because I know that the human, what God created in us is complicated and so simple at the same time. We're so
Right.
simple and so complicated at the same time, which is what makes us the beauty of humanity, right?
Yes,
But
indeed.
yeah, that's what makes us, when we get together and we show our hearts before we, have to commit to our egos, which is really what keeps a lot of our programs poorly. And it keeps people, people ask me all the time, is recovery possible? And I said, what is your definition of recovery?
Right.
Because mine changed from year to year. Once I started learning I could do this, but I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, sound is a problem for me, so I gotta figure out how do I work around sound.
Mhm.
Um, the TV and the lips didn't always match. I was like, "What is wrong with this TV? This TV's gone nuts. We
Yeah.
need a new TV." But it was my brain not being able to do it as quickly as somebody else's,
Mm.
could do it. The walking, the just and the thinking that everybody knows that you're broken. I'll tell you right now, my love, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Um, there are some physical um, things that we have to deal with, and that may get people to feel that we're disabled, but in a different way, right? If our hands are not working the same way, if we walk slower, if we're in a wheelchair, that's a visual for people. That's an immediate visual, but they don't think brain injury. They think, many other things. before brain injury comes to part. And that's why you are so vital. And that's what the work that you're doing is so vital. So I'll give you the magic wand that I only give to people I trust. I'm being very sincere. Not everybody, if you watch all of my podcasts, you'll say, oh crap, she does not give the magic wand to everybody. If you had the magic wand, what would be one thing that you would like to see in the brain injury community?
I am hopeful that in the brain injury community that there will be always and ever present people who have the intention, the heart, and the will to help a person's spirit become as shiny as it possibly can be. You know, you might be broken, but those cracks are filled with the gold of dialogue, you know, with the liquid gold of dialogue, authenticity, community, and here we go again saying it, love and beauty, and learning how to reappreciate if you didn't previously before the brain injury, or if you didn't during the recovery process, having an appreciation and a reappreciation for life and all the beautiful things within it. To simply wake up and breathe is nothing short of a universal miracle. And so I hope people that get into this type of work have that depth of appreciation for what they're doing and what their place is in being a healer to those who are survivors and have a certain type of resiliency that I will never know and totally respect.
And I pray you never have to even travel in those areas. And I say that to people all the time. I never, never, when people say, I don't know what to do, I'm like, thank you for being so honest. Thank you for being so honest. Like people will say my hands shake every once in a while. They're like, are you nervous? Please don't be. And I'm like, no, I'm not nervous. It just happens every once in a while, you know. I'll
Right.
hold a cup
Yeah.
with both my hands and stuff like that, but I've reached that level where I could, not be ashamed of it. It is my truth. I want to thank you, Ron, for the not only for being on the podcast. Every interaction that I've had with you, it is clear that you are committed heart and soul. How do we clone you? We need to talk to some, some folks about how do we clone. I don't know. How does that get done? And I think the best way that we can do it in earthly ways is for you to continue to educate us, inform us, and and do a lot of conferences. You are going to regret that you met me. Um, in the sense that you'd be like, what does she want me to do now? Because I think that your message, the way that you represent us, and I include myself, feel safe now saying that. You represent us, our needs, our desires, our humanity. That was not stripped away from us. Um, but people can do that to you. And so,
Yes.
yes, they can do that to you. So, if you are in a situation where you feel like you need some help and you have not gotten that referral from DSS or you have a loved one, at least have the conversation. Because I know that if they can't take you on or if you don't qualify for the waiver, I'm sure there's some referrals that can be given to you, and that navigation can happen.
Mhm.
Let's be honest, and I say this to everybody, we don't have enough services.
Yes.
We are still
Yeah.
in that place where we're still trying to shake the tree, and see if we get lucky. So I
Yeah.
invite all of you to consider how you vote. Keep us in mind when you hear about the disability community. I'm part of the disability community. So think when you vote, when you advocate, when you travel with your heart and soul in a community of faith, or you're just doing something good, think about how you are bringing us into your world because we are part of this world. I thank you so much, Ron. What would you like to leave the audience with? Um,
Well, I first of all, I am just so humbled and so honored to have been able to talk to you tonight.
thank you.
My conversation with you brings my work full circle and gives me all the more a meaningful feeling about the work that my organization does, the work that my team does, the work that I do on behalf of the acquired traumatic brain injury population, which is absolutely a part and a crucial and important and integral part of our planet. Not, not just Connecticut, not just America, the whole world, because we have clients from all over the world, all over the world. And I want to thank the people who've listened tonight. I again applaud you as a caregiver. If you're a person who has uh, incurred brain injury, we hear you, we see you, we believe in you, we support you, and we're here for you. We're here for you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, you know the reason why Ron is here. I don't think there is a question about that. I take this podcast very seriously. We have some fun here too, Ron. So you keep in touch because we do have prices and we do a lot of, wacky, crazy things because I enjoy that as well. But it's my goal for us to all be one community one day. And I may not see it in my physical life, but I'm sure that we can do that if we choose to that. In my belief, may God bless you, your family, who, I'm sure is very supportive of what you do. And they would have to be, because if not, you couldn't, I have to be honest with you guys. When you go into a field like the one Ron has gone into, you're not making $250,000. And you could with all of those letters behind your name. You could. And the fact that you have chosen to help people like me, I am very
Yeah,
grateful to you and to
it's
your family, because I know it takes and to your staff, please send them my gratitude, my love. I'm so grateful that you guys exist.
I
Thank you.
sure will. Thank you so much. This has been such a great experience, and I hope that we can do it again in the future.
Please, let's do it
I would
again.
love to.
For all of you know, you have to send in your video. Tell me how you felt about this conversation. Tell me something that you learned, and you can take $50 home and buy a lot of stuff you don't need, right? Um, or buy something that you need, or buy groceries. Don't get me started on that. But in my belief, God bless you. Please take care of one another. And remember, no one is perfect. So stop looking for perfection. It does not exist. It has never been. There's no researcher out there that could tell you this is what perfection is, the definition of perfection. We do have a disease called perfectionism. That's a disease. But we do not know what perfection is. Perfection is a feeling. It's a feeling, something that's perfect for you. And that's
Mhm.
it. So, to my dear family, to my followers, subscribe. It helps us take the message further. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Ron, again.
Thank you
Have
so
a good
much,
weekend.
Lydia. Have a beautiful night.
You too.
Bye bye.